I want you to listen to South Dakota Senator John Thune. This was his take on the minimum wage over the weekend.
The minimum wage is something that is particularly troubling and harmful at a time when you're trying to get people back to work. I worked for less than the minimum wage. I worked for the minimum wage. I started bussing tables at $1 an hour. I went up to $2.25 when they moved me up in the place, and then I finally made it to cook, which was big time. That was $6 an hour. What you're essentially telling those businesses in South Dakota that I just mentioned, that you're going to increase the amount of money that they have to pay their workers by over 50%. 50% increase.
You got to love the Tim Scott standing there to provide the patina of diversity over that round of words, that basket full of words. What do you make of John Thune's argument? Because his $6 an hour would be $20 an hour now if you account for inflation. But your thoughts?
Well, he's just so out of touch with where regular people are and struggling at the bottom end of the wage scale. And, you know, there's 27 million people, Joy, that would be lifted up in terms of their wages, 1.3 million that would be lifted out of poverty. 30% of Black workers would get a raise. 26% of Latinx workers would get a raise. So this is an issue that the senator is fondly remembering some time when it was just young people in their first job working a minimum wage. That is not the case today. Adults with families stay in minimum wage jobs for years at a time. And so it is just a myth that, number one, it's not going to lift a lot of people up out of poverty, that it's not deeply essential after 12 years of not raising the wage. And number two, Joy, this is a policy that is popular with Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Just let's not forget that Florida went for Donald Trump in the last election and voted a $15 minimum wage through with a supermajority of voters.
Yeah, you make a really good point, because every time minimum wage goes on the ballot, almost every time, it passes. And it's actually a really popular bill across political parties. I wonder if you think that because this is such a popular policy across the voters, you know, whether they're right, left, or center, are Democrats, in your view, making a mistake by not either overruling the parliamentarian, which the vice president of the United States could do, or coming up with some sort of workaround? I know Bernie Sanders has a workaround where they would use a tax penalty for people who don't go to $15 an hour. Do you think that Democrats are making a mistake by already saying they won't mess with the filibuster, which would be the easiest way to pass what is a very popular policy?
Well, I've already said that I think that the parliamentarian should be overruled. That is not unprecedented, as you know. Hubert Humphrey did it in 1967 and 1969. Roosevelt did it in 1975. These are certainly unprecedented times where we could thank the parliamentarian for her opinion. It is an advisory opinion, and then we could still include it in the minimum wage bill. I've spoken to the Speaker about this. I've spoken to the White House about it. It's why the House left it in our bill, even after the parliamentarian's ruling, because we believe that it has to be included. And look, Joy, Democrats are going to have a choice here. Are we going to give Mitch McConnell veto power over all the things that we have promised to voters across the country and, you know, that are really popular? It's not just this. It's the Voting Rights Act. It's immigration reform. It is so many. It's getting money out of politics with H.R. 1. There are so many things that we have promised. Voters gave us the House, the Senate, and the White House, and we're either going to have to include things in reconciliation or we're going to have to reform the filibuster. Frankly, we're probably going to have to do both, because there are some things that can't be included in reconciliation.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.